Hello viewers, Matt Gordy here with La Crosse Promise Future Centers, and this is another entry to our virtual library. This one is going to be about building resumes. So first off, there are a couple types of resumes that you should be considering and building. You have a living resume, and then you have your typical resume. So what is a living resume? Well, it records all of your activity from all of your life and experiences. It's constantly growing. Rarely are you going to delete things from it. It has no visual importance. You can make it as sloppy, as pretty as you want. Not a whole lot of rules attached to it. And it's a resource for you. So the reason that you're doing this is because you're going to do a lot of good things and you're going to have a lot of different experiences. And so you want to have a written record of all those things so that you can call upon them when you need to add them to your actual resume. The typical resume is a resume that is tailored specifically to what you're applying for or using it for. You never use the exact same resume twice because there are no two experiences that are the same. You're always going to tailor the details, the experiences, the wording to the opportunity that you're applying for or using a resume for. And so there has to be a precise presentation, visuals count. It doesn't have to be flowery and flashy. In fact, it shouldn't be, but it should be very clean and easy to read and follow. Next piece that I know might hurt some of your hearts, say no to templates. Don't use them. Templates too often are very cookie cutter and don't let you, change them and manipulate them in ways that best suit your needs or situation. They don't always highlight and capture the necessary details while highlighting things that nobody wants to read about anyways for your particular situation. And so you want to keep that frivolous information out of there if possible that they are adding in. And a lot of times they are very visually attractive. There's a lot going on with them or more than is necessary, and you want to cut down on that too. It is the words, it is the story that you're telling that needs to jump out, not the cool graphics or the interesting borders and stuff that they're going to add in there. Now, how to build this living resume, here are a couple of bullet points, and we're going to show you an example here. So you're going to create categorized lists. So that might be the sports you participated in, the classes that you've completed, the volunteer experiences you've had, the jobs you've had, all those things. You're going to want to track the dates of your participation in those things because that's the hard thing to remember when you're trying to call upon stuff from 2, 4, 3 years ago, whatever the case is. Update it regularly. Maybe once a semester or each summer you go back in there and you say, okay, here are the new things that I've done. Here are the updated dates that go in there. And you're limited on what you add to that simply by your memory or your creativity. What you're trying to do is say, there's a living document here that I can call upon to help sell myself to whatever the purpose of your resume is for. So let's take a look at an example. All right, so here's my mad example. Last updated, the fall of 2020. And so I might stick in there my high school achievements, including all those different things, GPA, honor roll, class rank, and what semesters or year I accomplished those things. I pick out what sports teams I had been on and what teams I was on, what awards or recognitions. Maybe I was all conference in one thing, I was a team captain of another, I was named most improved for another one, defensive player of the year, whatever the accolades are. And include the year of that recognition, include the years that you participated. What arts were you a part of? So do you have different portfolio pieces or group affiliations? Do you have recognition for those things as well? Different extracurricular activities and clubs that you were in high school. And what were your roles? What were you doing? What were you learning from those different clubs? And then these are just other things you might consider: your community involvement, your volunteer experiences, your employment history, work or skill building experiences that might not fit directly into a job or something like that. Maybe it's like more about a workshop. Awards or recognitions that don't fall into these other categories. Job shadows or work experiences that you've completed. Individual or passion projects. Maybe you do cool video editing or online websites and stuff like that that you maintain and update, and you want to make sure that you're factoring those into what you're going to talk about. And so this is not an exhaustive list. Like I said, you are limited only by your creativity. I'm trying to give you some categories to consider or use if you are willing to build yourself a living resume. So building an actual resume, not a living resume, but an actual resume from scratch. And so many students think that this is daunting and they could never do it on their own and that it will take too much time. And I'm here to say that it does not. It's actually very, very easy, very simple, and maybe actually ends up being cumulatively equal in time of using a template that you would have to doctor up, manipulate, change up to meet your specific needs. Why do all that changing if you can just build your own hierarchy? So these are the things that we're going to factor in. Creating that hierarchy structure, being very consistent from start to finish of it. Make sure you avoid using first-person pronouns in there. The whole resume is about you and nobody else, so you never need to say things like, I had to give presentations to the class. I had to, my job was, none of those things. Okay, so keep those first-person pronouns out of there. And then order things in importance. So whatever is most salient or most relevant to the thing you're applying for, using the resume for, that should be at the top of the resume. The things that have like the least importance in that decision making about you should be at the bottom. And so for you as like a student or a worker, probably your education experiences or your work experiences are going to be what's at the top. And on most resumes that I work with students on, something like volunteer experience is going to be at the bottom. And it's a great thing to have. It's a good way to finish things off, is to point out that you're an involved community member. So let's take a look at an example. Okay, so this is my example, and we'll do a couple of things here with this. So I stuck my name in there. You'd end up sticking your contact information below that. And then we start going into the meat and potatoes of the resume. And so I've just started to categorize it. Related professional experiences. Here, I'm a Future Center advisor. I do that for La Crosse Promise, and I am stationed in La Crosse, Wisconsin. I've been doing that since August 2017 to present. And then I stuck in different duties or roles that I fulfill within this work. And what do you notice about all of the starting words? They're all verbs. They're all action verbs, things I did. And that's a really good way to start. I highly encourage you to do that. Moving in, I won't read through every last one of these. You can do that. You can pause this as you need to take in the information. So this is how I would set up like a category, okay, and build it and flesh it out. Now let's start to look at what is going into these things. You're naming that category. Maybe it was academic experiences or past jobs or whatever you're choosing to put in there. And then you're going to put that position that you had within that structure. You don't need to say you're a student. If you're going to talk about education experience, you don't need to say things like this. But if you are, or these are relevant pieces, make sure you include them. Include the organization name. So if you were, I don't know, shelf stocker for festival, you put that in there. The organization, Festival Foods, and you do that in La Crosse, Wisconsin, or if you're working in the surrounding areas, fill that in. Put those years in that you've done, and then you start putting in those skills using a verb, no personal pronouns, the abilities that you have, the duties that you have, things like that. Okay, so that's sort of the information that goes there. And then this last section here is for the hierarchy structure that I'm using. You do not have to do what I'm doing here. You can make yours visually what is appropriate and right for you. I'm just trying to give you some sense of an example of a very simple way to create a very simple, clean, and visually successful resume. So I start my categories off with bold and cap locks on. Then when I move down a structure, I take off that cap locks and just do bold. And then when I start giving them the details about that position, I get rid of the bold. When I'm doing the details within that position, no cap locks, no bold. And then when I'm doing my years, this is actually just tabbed over, and in Microsoft Word is pretty adept, or Google as well, is pretty adept at then aligning things once you start tabbing it over. And so I just, whether I'm creating them to all be a right alignment or aligned at the same spot, but then I just italicize this information. And so then down below here, I just give examples of other things that might be categories that you would be choosing to use, like education, professional experiences, related coursework, projects or experiences, technical or hard skills, extracurricular activities, community involvement, additional employment, and volunteer experience. There are other things you could put in there. There are things you could take off of here. There's so many different ways to do a resume. I don't want to tell you that there's these hard and fast rules, but these are some good things to abide by. Generally speaking, most resumes should be about 1 page in length. Depending on the organization or the place that you're applying to, it might be 2 pages in length. Prior to this position, I worked at UWL working within their career services office, and that was a pretty hard and fast rule. Most places wanted to see a 1-page resume. Something like the world of education likes to see a 2-page resume. Geez, if you get into like the high professional world of like colleges and faculty, they love to see a long resume that just demonstrates all the stuff that you've done. So maybe before you get started on a resume, talk to a teacher or the future centers or someone you trust, just to say, what should I be, how should I craft this in terms of length, and what should be the things that I'm going to tackle with this one. Okay, so hopefully that gives you some ideas. Again, just pause this video along the way. Maybe the last thing just to kind of point to in here, you see my title is at size 18. I stuck that smaller contact information at size 10. I come down here to my text of the resume. I'm at size 11 throughout it. Is that another hard and fast rule? Not at all. To me, what I want is my name to stick out, my contact information to take up less space, the least amount of space that I can, more or less, and still be clear and clean and readable. And then this should just be readable. Size 11, size 12, probably nothing other than those 2 options, but the other things are all negotiable there. Okay, so just that constant reminder that your advisors are Haley Moe and me, and we are happy and excited to work with you and help you with your resume if that's something you're working on at this time and place, or actually years down the road you get done with your first career, your undergraduate experience, and you're saying, I'm trying to make a really good looking resume to head off into my professional life. It's something we can help you out with as well. And as always, connect with us. Use us as a resource. Check out our Future Center's website. Check out our Facebook page. Watch our videos in our library on YouTube. I hope this has been helpful and can't wait to work with you. Take care.